Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. As of late, we've been going more and more into the story of video games, lately diving into the timelines of games. And one of them that we just recently dove into was Silent Hill, the entire timeline of all of the games. And if you want to see that, it'll be linked down in the description after the video. But some of you, and if you're here, you probably just played Silent Hill F. And you're probably thinking, what the F just happened? And that was kind of my thought as well, because if you've played the campaign, you would know that you play through this entire campaign trying to figure out what is going on, and you quite literally don't understand anything until the post-credit scene. Now, if you want this to make more sense, you actually have to go through the multiple different endings to get to the true ending that will explain to you what is going on in this game. Now, in this video, I'm going to explain to you the brief backstory of what is going on in Silent Hill F, go through all of the different endings, and finally, at the very end, show you what the true ending is and what the entire meaning of Silent Hill F is. And yes, this is somewhat up to interpretation, but by the end, you will see exactly what I'm talking about. So this is, I guess, all of the endings explained for Silent Hill F. I'm going to try to pronounce everyone's name in this correctly, but I'm not very good at it. So the character you play as in Silent Hill F goes by the name of Hinako, who is a teenage girl struggling under the pressures and expectations of her friends, family, and society. Now, early on in the game, you leave home to go meet your friends, and when you do, you very quickly realize that something is very quickly going wrong in this town. But the entire time, as you meet up with your friends, who consist of someone by the name of Shu, seemingly a male love interest throughout the story, as well as Rinko, kind of like the third in the love triangle, and another one by the name of Sakako, who actually ends up dying very early on in the story, you very quickly realize that you are an outsider. Now, you realize in the world everything is going wrong and it's being taken over by this kind of red growth that is going around the town that you actually live in. However, that is not the only world that you go into. Early on in the story, you end up passing out, and when you wake up, you are in this different area. It's ghastly, covered in blue lights, seemingly a completely different world. For the sake of this being a Silent Hill game, we will call it the Other World. Now, in the other world, you live through a completely different life than you live in the real world. So let's start with the other world. In this world, essentially what you are doing is, as you go through fighting different things, you are going through a ceremony. Now, this ceremony is being led out by someone who is wearing a fox mask. It's a man, and you are kind of following him, all the while getting warnings that you should not follow this man. Now, you don't know what that warning exactly is, but as you go through this ceremony, you are essentially getting destroyed. At one point, your arm gets cut off and replaced with a fox arm. At another point, your face gets cut off and replaced with a fox face. You get branded, and you're essentially becoming this abomination of a human being. Now, back in the real world, there's a few different things going on, but a couple really that you only need to understand. Now, first of all, Shu. This is your love interest. This is the guy in the story. As far as he goes, you very clearly have a crush on him, and every time you talk to him, he refers to you as partner, or very clearly there's both sides of a relationship going on there. The other thing that we find out about Shu's family is they work in traditional medicine. In other words, they provide the people of the town a very traditional medicine to treat various ailments. We find notes about stomach aches, headaches, migraines, things along those lines. They have medicine that helps out with those, including some of Hinko's family. The other person we have is Rinko. Now, as far as Rinko goes, she is interested in Shu, and she does not like you because of that, because he pays attention to you, and there's this animosity between the two of you, and at one point, it appears as though she actually pushes you down the stairs. The second thing that you find out about is your family. Essentially, her family is extremely abusive, especially her father. Now, as far as her father goes, he drinks, he gets mad, and he completely dominates everything that goes on in the family.
You can't even do something simple like this? What kind of a worthless woman can't make me so soon?
Stop it! You do this all the time! Cut it out!
Shut up! Don't you dare talk to your father that way! Stay out of this!
You tolerate this, Mom! Why don't you stand up for yourself? And you, Dad! If you don't like her soup, make your own! working, aren't you?
Meanwhile, her mom is completely passive to this, and this is kind of the way society works in 1960s Japan. The man runs the household and everyone else falls into line. In other words, between the trauma of her family, the trauma of her friends, and just social pressures, she is feeling a lot. Now, eventually we find out who is causing the city to get destroyed by this kind of red growth. It is what we're going to call the mist monster. Now, this monster covers the land in mist and at one point even takes out Hanako's parents, basically causing all of the havoc around the city. Now, here's the thing. This is what we find out, and this is one of the big twists in the game. By the very end, we find out once this ceremony is finished in the other world, well, this is what happens. So Hanako actually becomes the fog monster. So in other words, the entire time, everything that has been going on inside of this town has kind of actually been her causing this havoc. And in fact, the weird thing is the character we see behind Hanako here is actually her sister, who is saying she hopes she truly finds happiness after the ceremony turned her completely into this abomination. And this is where we get into the different endings. So the interesting thing about the way that Silent Hill F ends is the first time you play through the game will end in the same way every time. When you go into New Game Plus, that is when you can have different endings. So we'll call this the normal ending, the original ending, whatever you want to call it. Your character ends up waking up in the other world once again, and this is seemingly right after the kind of ceremony, but this time she's her normal self. And as she makes her way into the ceremony room, she is greeted by her sister that kind of asks her what's going on, but she ends up having a freak out. Now, one important thing that I didn't mention is throughout the game, one of the things that you use to heal are red pills. These red pills that you can find all over the place. They're like the most common item that you find in the game. Well, when she gets to the ceremony room, she has a panic attack, pulls out a big box of these red pills and starts taking them like candy.
I don't know. Where am I don't like it here. It feels bad. I want to go home.
What is that? How long have you been taking this? Is it really okay to take that?
Yes, I'm fine.
Now, these pills are seemingly given to her from Shu. Now, we don't know. These pills were seemingly given to her from Shu, the person, the love interest that we talked about before, his family, traditional medicine, all of that kind of jazz. But she's been taking these throughout, and clearly they are making her hallucinate, given to her for her anxiety for what's going on in her life, but clearly having the opposite effect on her. Now, the next thing that she ends up doing is completely destroying the ceremony that has gone on, destroying the ceremony room. And then when we kind of get to the boss fight, we end up actually fighting herself, the other version of herself, which you will understand this in a second. But anyway, she fights against herself and ends up winning. But as she goes to run and escape the ceremony and escape the temple that she is in, she is followed and chased by these beings, as well as seeing these red pills absolutely everywhere, taking over her life. When she finally escapes the building, this is what happens.
Get out of our way!
Now, this is the end of the game, and you may be thinking, hey, this still doesn't make any sense. Well, that's because it doesn't make any sense until you see the post-credit scene, and this is what it is.
Yonikawa 2 to HQ. We've got 2 male victims here. The same female suspect as in the wedding massacre on Route 8. One victim is currently in cardiac arrest.
Kagerocho 1 to HQ. We haven't found the knife used by the suspect at the scene. Chances are good that it's still in the suspect's possession. Better consider her armed. Over.
Attention all apartments. This is HQ. Female suspect is in her 20s and wearing a wedding dress. Height is a little over 160 centimeters. Last seen fleeing Tsuneyoshi Shrine. Believed to be armed and highly dangerous. Exercise extreme caution.
Come in, HQ. This is Kagerocho 1. It appears the suspect was observed consuming red and white capsules at the scene of the crime.
Kagerocho 1, this is HQ. Did the capsules match the ones discovered at the wedding venue? Over.
HQ, this is Kagerocho 1. Affirmative. Collected capsules the suspect dropped.
So, as it turns out, our character went postal. You see, that ceremony that we were doing the entire time, that was a wedding ceremony, a forced wedding ceremony. And you see, our character, Hanako, didn't want to be forced into marriage. It was a marriage chosen by her parents and the groom's parents, and the groom was the guy wearing the fox mask. And that is why the further they moved into the ceremony, the closer she became to her fox. She got the fox arm, eventually a fox brooch. She was becoming a member of the fox family. And when she was finally done with the ceremonies, that is when she turned into something ugly. But that something ugly wasn't because she got married. It's because she didn't want to and was completely and utterly unhappy. Now, as we go through the other endings, you are going to see a couple things that get added to this. But number one, the main reason why she didn't want to be forced into marriage is because that is what happened to her mother. Forced into the submissive role where she was beaten, hit, and abused by this drunk and alcoholic father. And she had to deal with this her entire life and didn't want to be in the same situation. Now, the reason why you're confronted with your sister in a mask is she's already been handed off. She has already been in an arranged marriage. She has been handed off to another family, hence the mask that she is wearing. And with all of this stress and with her not wanting this life in conjunction with the pills, she went postal. But believe it or not, this is not the bad ending. Now, in all of the endings, she is in the other world, and once again she is here, and once again upon getting to the ceremony room, she is greeted by her sister. Now, this time she does not panic and end up taking all of the pills. This time her sister essentially tells her that she no longer exists. She's not the same person as before, and in fact, that she shouldn't even be here whatsoever. Now, it sounds like she's standing up for her sister and telling her that she shouldn't be here getting married, but what she is actually saying is that this version of her shouldn't be here. This childhood version of her that doesn't submit to her husband, that just doesn't accept to be married and be with this person. Now, once again, she freaks out and destroys the ceremony. This time she's not addressed by the fully changed version of herself, but rather the half-changed version of herself, the half-married version of herself, if you will. Now, the two versions of herself end up in a pretty big battle, but this is what ends up happening next.
Hinako, take this elixir. By something so foul and resisted it for so long. Curse you.
What have you done to Hinako?
Hinako.
Now, it seems as though her husband sees the negative, the ghosts of her past, and banishes them away as a part of their newfound relationship. But then...
Why are you protecting him? I swore that I'd keep you safe. Don't you trust me? It's always been the two of us!
I wanted for us to be together. Like we always were. We can't. Don't you see that? Things won't always stay the same for us.
You don't think I know that? But why do you trust this nobody? Why him?
Shu. You always say you want things to stay as they are. But Kotoyuki... he says he wants to build a future together with me. Both ideas scare me. But both of them fill me with hope.
Now, at this point, we can kind of see, because it's the version of herself who has given into the marriage and who is accepted to stay with this person that her parents and his parents actually decided to be with, that she's going to stay there. And even in this, we actually get to hear that this Kotayuki, her husband, isn't actually that bad of a person. He wants them to build a future together. And, well, this upset Shu. And then we get to find out a little bit more about those pills.
I gave you those capsules.
What about them?
They help you reflect within yourself. But they can be extremely dangerous, too.
Why would you give me something like
I
that?
didn't want you to get married! I care about you so much! I wanted you to see it!
So he, in an attempt to stop this marriage, gave her the pills so she could self-reflect and see that Shu was the right person. Now, disgusted with himself, Shu ends up turning into a monster, and this final boss is the two of them fighting. Now, after beating him, she essentially at this point has chosen Kotayuki. Their marriage is finally complete, and what seems like maybe even a good thing doesn't turn out at the end. Because in the post-credit scene for this one, what we end up seeing is the two of them together. But she is no longer in her childhood form. She is no longer in the half and half form. She is fully turned into the fog monster, meaning she's sad. She didn't get to live happily ever after.
No. I'm scared. I'm so scared. Please don't. No, I'm scared. I'm scared. I don't want to be like my mother. I don't want to become my mother.
And in case you couldn't figure it out, that's just the part of her that does not want to be like her mother and is now trapped in this arranged marriage. The good ending starts the same as all of the other ones, but where things start to change is when she gets into the conversation with her sister. This time, she lets her sister know it's not about what she is going to do or even can do, it's about what she wants to do. And the doll chooses her. In the other ending, the bad ending, the doll was on her sister's side. Now again, she destroys everything at the ceremony, and again, this time she is confronted with like the half her, half fox version of herself. However, this time she is steadfast. She just straight up says all she wants to do is be herself by saying her own name and only thinking about what she wants to do. So again, this time she ends up fighting the kind of advanced version of herself that's kind of changed into the depressed, deranged version that is a completely different human being. In other words, the fog monster. And upon defeating the fog monster, this is what happens.
This is not behavior befitting a bright being.
Tell me, who the hell are you?
I would ask the same of you. Who are you? Hinako would never act this way. How have you entered these sacred grounds? Reveal your true self!
Shoo!
I always believed in you, partner. I knew eventually you'd find the strength to speak up and finally express your true feelings.
Now, this is the good ending, but it's not the true ending. It's not the canon ending, if you will. But this is the husband being overly mean, and after this, he ends up turning into this kind of fox being that you end up having to fight. Eventually defeating them, this is what the post-credit scene for this one looks like.
Are you alright?
Thank you, Shu. If you hadn't come to help, I wouldn't have been brave enough to go on.
That's not it. That's the opposite of why I decided to help you. I helped because you showed so much courage.
It took me way too long to find that courage, though. I caused everyone so much trouble.
I don't know. I think it's crazy that you felt that the only way to do that was to give up on your life.
Thank you, partner. You look really weird in a tie.
Yeah, well, you look really weird in that.
So essentially they run off to live happily ever after. And that's how this one ends, aside from one other thing. A radio broadcast that talks about geysers releasing gas into the atmosphere, essentially causing the mist in the area, or the fog in the area. And I think this is just there to kind of put an explanation for the gas still being there, but it could also be looked at as a gas being released similar to what you see in the other Silent Hill games. Now, one other ending. Now, this is the UFO ending. I'm not going to go in depth in this one whatsoever. However, if you are a Silent Hill fan, just know that there is indeed a UFO ending, and it's essentially based off of a comic book strip, which I thought was pretty funny. Now, for the true ending, this is where everything kind of comes together. You've seen all of the angles, you've seen what's gone on with the pills, you've seen what's gone on with Shu, and you've seen what's gone on with the husband. Now, none of what has happened is the canon ending. This is, and you get this ending if you 100% complete the game.
Everyone. Someone is toying with all of us.
What do you mean?
One of them wants to marry me off. The other one wants to stop the wedding. This whole time, they've been pitting me against myself.
Essentially in this one, Hinako, and I know I keep pronouncing the name different every single time, I'm not very good at it, I understand. But as far as she goes, she essentially realizes everything that is going on. She has her parents and her husband's parents trying to push her into this marriage. She also has Shu, who wants to be with her. And essentially, she realizes that the entire society is based around controlling women. Again, she completely destroys the wedding, the ceremony, everything going along with that. Now, this time when the two versions of her face off, they actually agree. They agree that they can kind of exist in harmony, and both of their goals should just be to be happy. However, the next scene that we see is some outside forces forcing them against each other, forcing them to choose who she wants to be with. And these two bosses we actually saw earlier. One is Shu's boss and one's her husband's boss that they had to fight previously. And now they are forcing her to choose one of them. Now, however, in this version, you have to fight both bosses, but what you realize is both bosses are not controlled by the husband and not controlled by Shu, but rather what appears to be the ideology and thoughts of both sides' parents, forcing this marriage. And this is all but confirmed when we actually get to speak with our husband and hear what he specifically thinks about this wedding.
I am deeply sorry. He has had much to drink for his first wedding in many moons. He is normally so kind.
What do we do?
Just leave this matter to me for now.
Kotoyuki, you could,
Apologies. While I tried to give you everything, I failed to realize what you desire most. Now I know. We both share the same desires. I want to know whether my love for you is more than the mere whim of a spell.
So Katayuki actually goes off and explores his life. He says he's not ready for this either. He needs to figure out who he wants to be. And maybe one day if they come back together, maybe they are meant to be together. But right now, they can't make that decision unless they do it for themselves. Now, in theory, this is the good ending. She gets to choose whether she wants to be with Shu, Katayuki, and she's been through all of this, trials and tribulations. Now, here is what ends up happening and the conversation she ends up having with the other side of herself in the end and how they can coexist in harmony. So those are all of the endings of the game. You can see how they differ, the themes differ a little bit, what they're about, whether it's addiction to a prescription medication, whether it is love, whether it is choosing what you want, and how in doing that it can cause unforeseen circumstances like geysers going off, for example, or whether it's about figuring out who you are for yourself. That is what this final ending is about. If this helped you understand the game, please be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, turn notifications on, and until next time.
So, what should we do about our future? Kotoyuki gave me an idea. He grew to love someone deeply, to do anything, everything he could for them. I want to live a life that full of passion, of purpose, to pour my whole heart into things. To live with such passion that I might actually propose to Kotoyuki when I'm ready. I also want to pour my heart into something. Not sure what yet, though. Very specific. It's quiet here, isn't it? No one to tell us what to do or bother us. It's nice, just the two of us. Yeah, just the two of us to decide where to go. I don't think it's ever been this quiet in Ebisugaoka. It's really beautiful. And it is all ours. Our silent Ebisugaoka. Together.